Hello, everybody. Welcome to ICC TV. I'm Grandmaster Joel Benjamin, and I have for you a live video recap of the action from the U.S. Championship, which just concluded in St. Louis. In fact, um, we've only just known the complete results just a few hours ago because of the playoff between Nazi Pakica and Annie Wang that just finished. And Nazi was able to triumph in that playoff, which I have more for you. Sorry, I'm getting an echo, so I'm a little bit disoriented. Hopefully, we'll find a way to clean that up. I guess it's because I have the sound on my iPad. Yeah, I have to figure out what to do about that. I hadn't planned on that. Okay. All right. So anyway, the U.S. champion, the new U.S. champion is Sam Shankland, and he was a very deserving winner. He scored 8.5 out of 11, which is a tremendous score. Fabiano Caruana tried his best to keep up with him, and he was winning games down the stretch, but it still finished half a point behind. Um, People may not know that much about Shankland. Um, he's a late bloomer. I remember meeting him when he was a teenager. He played in the World Under 16 Championship, and I had never really come across him. It's very rare that you find a player that just shows up at that level, World Under 16, who has not played in the levels before, but he got started late, and consequently, he may not have been considered as the most among the most talented guys, but he made up ground fast, and I could see right away he was very talented and very determined player. And I'd like to start by showing a game which I feel is um, is quintessentially Sam. It really kind of sums up the type of player he is. In my view, he's a bulldog. He's just very determined player, very hard worker, problem solver, and he's not afraid of anything put in front of him. He doesn't think, I don't know if I could win this, or he doesn't expect positions to win themselves. He's ready to fight. And so I want to show the game that he won in round 7 against Jerebuch, and this is how it goes. He played knight f3. Now he's a versatile player. He played e4 in the last round with everything on the line against Ewander Liang, but he felt, I guess, he had a good matchup with this move order, which eventually goes into a Queen's Gambit. So here's this move a3. Uh, in this opening, there's often a battle for a tempo revolving around this exchange on c4, and so if White moves the bishop, Black can take it. So White is hoping to get in a useful move, and Black often does the same. He's saying, okay, if I get in to play this move a6, if I take on c4 later, then b5, and I can play c5, and the b pawn is already supported. So Shankland pushes c5, which is often a reaction to a6, as now if b6, White has the option of taking it to try to create weaknesses on the c file. But with the move a3 in, he might very well play b4. The problem is it seems that Black is pretty much okay after this e5 move. And this knight takes e5 move is a novelty. Um, I guess maybe the idea is he didn't want this knight to come into e4. And then if you trade, the knight is attacked. maybe the best move is bishop e2, which I think was played one time in this position. I believe a Kubian in the U.S. Championship played this move, and maybe that's the best thing to do, just to sit tight and maintain the pawn chain. But after knight e5, it looks like white doesn't get anything at all. Seems like black is perfectly fine in this position. G3, because I think castles is not possible because of bishop h3. No good answer there. So it's slightly awkward, but G3 is not necessarily a huge concession, and white is threatening now F4. So queen goes back. This bishop H3 is certainly a normal move, and F5. I kind of like the spirit of this move. It's a nice aggressive grab space, but black has to be a little bit careful about this bishop. F3, and now rook A E8, and I think that this is a little bit of a careless move. Uh, I think black should have played queen f6. And the reason is queen f6, now white probably won't go knight d1 because f4 is possible. E takes f4 is no good because the queen hangs to knight f3 check. Gf3 is asking for checkmate. And I think that knight f2 uh, can be answered by f takes e3 for one thing, because now the queen is hanging. There's no time to take the bishop because knight f3, and the queen drops. But Jerry Book plays, natural move rook a8, and suddenly knight d1. Uh-oh, this bishop is in trouble. And Sam is very good at spotting those opportunities. So now basically black ends up having to give up a piece. Knight f2, queen comes over, and now queen h4. Black has to take on f3, nothing to be done. He could take with the knight or the queen. He decides to do this one. Okay, so this forces black to trade some more pieces. And now white tries to consolidate. All right, black has two pieces, two pawns for the piece. Clearly, white is much better, but it's a long way to win this. Uh, white may well run out of pawns down the line. Black outmoves this rook. B6 probably wasn't a good move. He probably should have left the queen side alone and tried to play the other side of the board, but he's trying to create some complications. And this wasn't really too much a problem because white can take with the queen. I think he definitely doesn't want queen b2, rook b1, and then white can make a big pass pawn. That will probably end the game. Takes, takes, takes. This position is fabulously complicated. I mean, it's hovering between white winning and black drawing. It's plus over minus, but it's not a done deal. White doesn't have that pawns. His king is exposed. White could certainly take this pawn on c6. I suppose it doesn't like f4. I believe the engines say that white could push past g4, and that this is the best way to play. But basically, Sam, it seemed like he was trying to keep his king a little bit safe. Well, you can take it now. Now is a good time to take it, but again, f4 is to deal with. He decides to bring the knight into the game, but there's some tricks here too. Darabuk makes a good decision to sacrifice his f pawn. Otherwise, white would completely consolidate. Maybe Sam even underestimated this move slightly. Now, the engines say rook b8 was a better try in this position. Again, the position is very, very complicated. It's hard to know these things. He played g5, which was a tempting move. Knight g2. Queen 5. All right, so now Black gets to hold on to those pawns for a while, and Sam furiously tries to blockade them. And he succeeds for the most part, but they do kind of, make some advances. It's very hard to comment with precision on these moves. There were different ways to go. Shanklin actually pokes these pawns forward, figuring that he might take them off, but it wasn't so easy. He did get a little tied up here, and then he ends up trying to play h4 to kind of create some extra stuff to push Black from what he's doing. But well, according to the engines, which is always very hard to say, Black should take on h4, which will either divert the queen, which will make a difference, or if White takes the pawn, then Black could place it like king h8 and has sufficient counterplay to draw. Zherebuk played queen c6, and now the trade of queens worked out very well for White. I think that Zherebuk maybe was hoping that White would throw in this trade, and probably rook c3 would be very strong. But Shanklin says, "Okay, I'm just going to have to win this game with my h pawn." But now it gets the king, so the d pawn is doomed, and the c pawn is doomed, and ultimately the a pawn is doomed. So Black is about as close to drawing as you can be. He gets rid of the a pawn, but White still has the h pawn, and Zherebuk never figures out a way to get rid of it. Shanklin somehow manages to coordinate everything. He has to bring this rook over here, but this knight is ready to come back, and Black is not able to take it. He comes very, very close, right? In this position, he can attack the pawn with rook d4. He can't defend, but he can go king e5, rook takes pawn, knight 6 check, g5, rook 2. That's the mate. So it goes rook g1, but now Sam consolidates. Gets the king. He's actually pushing it back to the h pawn. He's keeping the black king out. The a pawn really doesn't matter. White is going to collect it eventually. I mean, the knight and the king kind of move around on these circuits, but king has now defended the h pawn. And this is a nice move. He gets the out, and the check doesn't bother him. The knight is defending the pawn, and the a pawn drops, and basically we're at the end of the game. Black is hoping for some counterplay, but there really isn't any. Zherebuk design now clear pawn down. We could see something like check, rook back, check. The king goes back, it's trivial, but if it comes forward, then White can just push this pawn. And now the king is actually cut off from coming back. If you check, the white king comes up the board, and it's very simple for White to win. So that for me was the quintessential Sam Shanklin game. He's a problem solver. He's a determined worker, and no job is too big for him. And he was just kept on working the whole way. And, he was able to pull out that game and many others. With 2 rounds to go, I decided to. I'm not one that likes to predict results. I hate all these rules where you're supposed to pick the winner or whatever. I can't stand that stuff. But I did a little bit of poll to myself. I said, what do I think is the most likely result with 2 rounds to go and Shanklin to have a point? And I concluded, I think the most likely result is a playoff. I think that Fabiano will make up a half a point in 2 games. That he'll win 2 and Shanklin will win 1 and a draw, or Fabi will get 1 win and a draw and Shanklin will draw out. Caruana actually won both games. And still it wasn't enough. Shanklin won both his last games as well. That is really shows a lot of character to be able to do that. And so I guess we're going to go on to the last round and see uh, how that works. Now, I have to admit, I'm kind of new to the YouTube, so I don't know exactly how to see the questions. If I can see the questions, I will answer them, but they're not on my screen. So that's a problem for me. I'm take a momentary break. Hello, am I live? Okay. All right. We're back. All right. Let me get my screen back up. All right. Here we go. Um, so anyway, Shankland was really great down the stretch, and here we go. Um, this is the last round against Awander Liang. All right. So Awander is the kid of the tournament. He's a 14-year-old grandmaster, very talented, but very green. And that's the kind of player you like to exploit. And I think that Sam really went into this game determined to win. He wasn't thinking, as a lot of people might in a situation, well, if I draw, the worst that can happen is the playoff, even if Fabiano wins. He was thinking, I'm not letting this get out of my hands. He was determined to win. But I think he played for it in a way that uh, that was kind of smart because he took advantage of the fact that he has more experience and he played into the Caracan, but he played the exchange variation. I played the exchange variation a lot of times myself because I don't know, I think of myself kind of as a positional player. I like certain structures I feel comfortable in. I like to aim for them. And so the exchange for Caro is it's kind of actually like playing the black side of a Queen's Gambit declined exchange variation, which I never play for black, but somehow I like it now that I'm white. I guess because I can get my bishops out. White. The idea is that white wants to put these bishops on these nice diagonals before black can get there. But I can say that as someone who's played this opening for both sides, it's very little for white. If black plays accurately, he can usually hold. Um, if Shanklin were going into the last round and he wanted to win against, let's say, Yasser Seirawan, this is not what he would do, right? But he figures a young player, he can just play positionally. He can play to squeeze, and there's extremely little risk involved in this for white. Now, I have to say, watching this game, I really learned because, as I say, I played this position for both sides. Uh, Knight A5 is an old move. Petrosian played against Fischer unsuccessfully. But the main moves here, this is the old move, Queen C8. Larry Christensen played this against me in the U.S. Championship when I was 17. I beat him. I often like to play Queen C7 with a slightly different idea that black usually trades bishop, like for instance, Knight D2, E6, Knight F3. For various reasons, black has to take, and then he could trade this bishop. It's pretty much equalizing. Another way to go is to play Queen C8, and the idea here is that now you just develop the bishop to E7, and then later play bishop H5 to C6 to trade off the bishop. If white has anything, it's minimal. I have to admit that even though this is a position I've known for a long time, there are new developments, and one is this move E5. And it's sometimes frustrating as an old timer to see things like this where what I knew 20, 30 years ago is not necessarily true anymore. This E5, it seems to be kind of a specialty of David Navarra, who's played it a couple of times. And the idea is that d takes e5, he wants to answer knight h5 and chase the bishop away and take on e5, and it seems to equalize. So I guess Sam was hip to this, and he played h3, which is a move that's out there. So this is a move that's out there, and black has to probably trade these bishops, but he can play knight a5. This is kind of the engine move. Queen goes, takes. This is an engine line. Not entirely sure that knight e2 can be played. The engine says something like this, and black is more or less equal. I'm not entirely sure. Liang goes for this line, which has also been played, which actually was played in the game involving the strongest players. But in that game, black played knight 4, which was not a good move. So white took it. Black had to take with the pawn, and after knight d2, followed by rook e1, basically black had to give the pawn to the center. A better move in this position is knight takes pawn. The engine likes this move, knight takes pawn, and I guess knight d2, it wants to go queen d7. And I don't know, that seems like a pretty greedy grab, but the engine claims that black is okay doing this. Not that it's a miracle or anything, but black is okay. From a human point of view, it looks very, very risky to do that. So it's not surprising that Awander doesn't for it. Well, I know that Shanklin has analyzed something and knows it to be bad. But Awander castled. Knight 2. Now black definitely cannot take this pawn. Check. G6, which maybe threatens the pawn. Now, an interesting moment, Shanklin decides to drive the knight away before developing his knight. And it seems like the knight probably wants to get back into the middle, but on h5, it does kind of shield the h-pawn, which Shanklin eventually does take. So I guess he's hoping to kind of tie the rook there. And this position is just more pleasant for white. It's a lot easier to play, and Liang is not going to handle on it. Plays bishop g7, which very likely is in the wrong direction. Maybe the bishop should go to d6, where it covers more squares. Maybe king d8. He should have played right away. Queen a4. Rook d6. This is slightly. Knight b3. I think that here Komodo wants white to play b4. Why is that? I think the idea is that it thinks that black needs to kick this bishop away, and if the bishop moves back, there's a target to play b5 and open things up. It's very understandable that Shanklin decides not to weaken his pawns. Maybe it's not necessary. But now the computer really wants black to kick the bishop away, and maybe that would be the lesser evil. But Liang instead decided to cover the square c5. But now the knight loses support, and after this maneuver, black has a lot of trouble holding things together. And I'm not going to comment that much on individual moves. This is Shanklin really just did a nice job of putting on pressure. You see the problem for Liang, it's hard for him to do anything constructive. He's hoping that maybe this attack on g5 can do something. But he doesn't really get to it. Pawn is hit. And he gets to take this pawn on h7, so it's kind of a freebie. He's got all his other advantages. a6 goes back. And I can say that, White has a lot of good moves along the way. I don't think that Shanklin actually plays a bad move in this game. Really isn't any move where he loses ground. And in fact, this moment he comes back, he could actually very easily play. Um, sorry, he could easily come in to c6. Maybe this way. Let's say we could have all these trades, and then in the end, White takes an e6, Rook g7, and the g6 pawn drops. So that would be kind of a cute way to liquidate, not into the pawn ending, but into the rook ending, and White should be winning. I don't know if he missed that, but it's not terribly important because Black is just so it's such a horrible traits, and Shanklin is very very patient. He doesn't rush anything. A3 is a very interesting move to me. The computer thinks it's a good move too. I have to admit I'm not entirely sure what the idea is. Maybe B4, some moment, maybe kind of Zugzwang. Uh, White could play Rook C1 to try to bust through with C4. But A3 works out okay. Knight C6. Now he liquidates, and that forces a penetration with the queen. And now Black has to watch out about also not only the F pawn, but he doesn't want the rook to come to E7, faces the queen. But now White just plays with two extra pawns, and he could take the pawn and F4 with the queen. He could do almost anything, but he decides to just play very simply. And White has many, many ways to do this, but certainly there's nothing wrong with Sam's move. I think my engine was calling for 97, but it doesn't matter. It's all good. Jack. Technically, Black should play Rook D6. White could trade and bring King E2 and two pawns in a knight ending. There's absolutely no chance that that is not going to result in a win for Black. There's no chance. So he tries King B5, but now the White king comes to the middle. Check. Doesn't really matter where the knight goes. King E3. White is threatening knight D5 followed by C4. Position is completely hopeless, so Liang resigned. Excellent technique by Shanklin. Like I said, I can't think of anything he did wrong. And there was a case where Sam is experienced enough to have a good idea of how to approach that last round game. He had the perfect strategy, and it worked to perfection. And so, what can you say for Fabiano Caruana? He scored 8 out of 11. That's a great score. Like if he had won the tournament with 8 out of 11, everybody say, "Oh, another great tournament for Fabiano." So nobody should be saying that he failed. He had a very good result. He just had that one game that will haunt him. That game against Izoria, where he pressed too hard and he ended up losing. He never got another chance. If you look at what Caruana did after the game against Izoria, I think he had 4 wins and 2 draws. He drew with So and Nakamura. You can argue that okay with White with Nakamura, maybe he could have found a way to press. He had really never had any chance to win that game. But he drew those 2 games. He won the other games, and that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough because Shanklin's pace was so amazing. All right, so let's take a look at what Fabiano was doing, how he won in the last round against Ownership, and he was winning, very smoothly most of his games. Sometimes he was crushing his opponents. If like when they played the winnable French, like the headset. What should I do? Oh, Can you hear me? Oh, I must have hit mute by accident. Okay, what now? Wait, before you go back, let me. Okay, okay, okay. All right, all right. Okay, all right. Let's have a look at this Carolina Onashuk game. I apologize to listeners a little bit. This setup is a little new for me, but I'm having some technical issues. But anyway, Carolina Onashuk. Let's see how Carolina approaches this. Well, Carolina is a totally professional player. He came to this tournament after winning the candidates tournament, and winning the Grunke tournament, top class tournament with Magnus Carlsen in it, and he was very warmed up to say the least. Maybe you can argue that he was slightly tired, but he was in a very professional mode. All right, so Onishik plays a very early b5 and bishop b7 rather than playing d6. So he's looking for a d5. And so Caruana does not play the usual sort of knight c3 business. He plays it in a different way. He just pushes a4 to make a square for the bishop. He doesn't have to come back to c2. All right, so Onishik has ideas of pushing d5. That's really his setup, his idea. The bishop on b7 isn't going to do very much if black doesn't get in d5. Bishop f8, knight f1. So d5, and I don't know, maybe this is slightly premature. Maybe black should play h6. It has been played a couple of times before, but after Caruana's continuation, it looks like black is just kind of has an unpleasant position. Um, the computer says, and this move has been played before, knight c6. And if if bishop f6, black could try bishop takes f3. No, white could take on d5 first, but position like this, okay, clearly white has the upper hand. It's not pleasant for black, but maybe black can hold. It's not really what you want out of the opening. Um, yeah, maybe knight c6. White could also take on 5, and he can double the pawns on f6. Yeah, it's a better position for white, no question. So Onishik takes, but now there's a very unpleasant pin. If the knight comes back to c6, white could trade the rooks and take on f6. And take your pick. Knight h4, knight e3, knight g3. There's a million moves where white can try to take advantage of these light squares. Playing against this bad bishop, which can control f5. It's not a pleasant situation for black. But what Onishik did, he basically just pitched the pawn. And I think Caruana could have actually taken even more advantage of it, because he could just take on e4. And if black trades the queens, problem is black cannot take this pawn on e4 because white doubles rooks, and black is going to lose a piece over there. And so if black can't take this pawn, if he has to go back, then white can trade something like this. I think this is white has even more than he got in the game. This is just absolutely overwhelming. But Caruana, I don't know what his reasoning was, or maybe he didn't realize that it was that simple. He did this, and he won a clean pawn. Well, he has a pin on the knight, but he doesn't can't maintain it. All right, so White won a pawn for nothing, basically. Yet it's a position where, under different circumstances, Onishik has held this type of position. He's a very solid player, a very resolute defender, but he was woefully out of form in this tournament. I don't know what it was. I don't know if he was rusty or preparation or he wasn't feeling well or whatever. Finished with 3 out of 11 and put up very little resistance in the last 2 rounds against two key players, Shankland and Caruana. So with Onishik out of form, he's just not able to make anything of this. And Caruana wins it pretty routinely. He chases the queen, and now he's getting ready to chase the knight. The bishop actually shouldn't have even come out to c5, to be honest, because he can't do much offensively. He should have stayed back on f8. That probably was a significant error. But now suddenly White goes after this b pawn. And if he pushes queen e4, it's pretty strong. And that's going to win the pawn. Black has to trade, and drive the knight back, and then, something like this. White could take this pawn on d4. He could push if he wants to. It's overwhelming. Yeah. So Black just lost another pawn. And then Caruana makes Luft. King coming to h2. He doesn't have to worry about the f pawn because his knight will come to e4 to defend. It's 2 pawns for absolutely nothing, and Onishik resigns. This is, sad end to a sad tournament for a great player who I believe he was just inducted into the U.S. Chess Hall of Fame. Maybe that's some kind of jinx if you get inducted in the year you're playing. I don't remember how Kamsky did when he was inducted. I was inducted into the Hall of Fame back when I was in Florida, so I didn't have that experience. But I voted wholeheartedly for him to go in the Hall of Fame. It's a good career, but he did not have this tournament. All right, so I'm just not handling the YouTube technology very fluently. So rather than take questions, I'm going to anticipate the questions and answer them. So what happened to Kara Nakamura here? I'm going to answer that question in case anybody wants to ask. I think he was kind of suffering a hangover of having to watch the candidates on TV. While Caruana was playing some very serious chess. Well, Wesley So played some very serious chess. But Nakamura, I think he admitted that he was a little bit rusty. He had a layoff. He wasn't sharp, as he admitted. It also felt like he came in. He didn't have weapons. It was like playing in a Swiss system tournament where he had to play kind of quirky openings to try to make something happen, whereas Caruana was able to develop winning chances by playing just completely proper chess that he would play against 2,800 players. So that was a problem for Hikaru. And I think, he eventually get his head back around. He's still coming into his tournament in 2780s. It's not done. He'll be back. I think he'll be back in the candidates. But right now, he's on a little downturn. Wesley So just wasn't able to generate much. He won some games. He did okay, but he wasn't able to win at a rate to compete with Shankland or Caruana. Okay, I think I'd like to talk about the girls for a little bit, because they had a very interesting women's championship with upstart Annie Wang jumping out to the lead and holding it almost until the very last moment. So I'd like to see what happened to her in the last round, how it kind of came crashing down, and then in the playoffs. She started out with some big score. I think it was maybe 7 out of 8, and she held draws against Pakitsa. She held a draw against um, Anna Zatansky without problems at all. And it's the last round where it went down. Now, played Sabina Fleischer, former defending champion, who was not having a good tournament, but she wanted to, to show something, to prove something that sometimes all you have is to be the spoiler. Anyway, off French defense, Sabine is not biting on that. So Queen's Gambit declined. All right, so this is sort of well-known stuff. Um, I'm trying to think. Maybe this position might occur more often without the moves h6 and bishop h4. It's always a little bit of a risk for black to throw that move in, because white can play g4, g5, which actually for sure does in the game. But normally white will castle queenside and maintain the tension. I think I also played rook d1 once in this position. But Forsha takes here, and that leads to just everything being traded. Really very easy for Annie Wang. And most of the tournament, her opponents just weren't able to find a way to put pressure on her. And a thing you have to understand about a lot of the players in the women's tournament, although they're talented, a lot of them are not really fully professional, and they're not that proficient in the opening. Irina Krush maybe is an exception. She's worked harder on her chess than the others. But Anna Zatansky, I mean, she's a mom. That's a big job in itself. She's never really been good in the openings. Even against lower-rated players, she would have to often forfeit better position in the opening. Pakitsa, I think, also doesn't really know that much about the opening. I think she came to the tournament with a coach. So Annie she's facing players who may be stronger than her, but it's hard for them to demonstrate, and they weren't really getting the right positions to do it. And so she was able to keep it going. And here, Forscher kind of forces it with this castle because you know there's an open C file, and black is not that far from getting pieces out and occupying that file, and g4, g5 is a long way off. So Annie gets a very nice position. Queen a5. And this, I give it to this is actually quite a nice maneuver to centralize the queen. She unpins the knight, but also the queen in the middle is well placed. And Forscher is very stubborn in this position, just goes for it with g4, and now spends a tempo to defend it. But now black is coming out very fast after bishop d7 and creating threats on the c file. And again, kind of a stubborn move, h4. And Annie really could have taken it to her opponent. She plays, okay, rook fc8, that's fine. King b1. She played this move relatively quickly, but she didn't get it right. I think she played the knight on f6 to d5 because she's trying to get out of the way of g5. She's trying to be responsible defensively, but actually she took away the power of her move by bringing the wrong knight. If she brings e knight to d5, the knight f6 maintains defense of d7, and black is going to take on c3 and destroy white's structure in front of the king. Position is very bad for white, very bad, and Annie would be much better in this position. If she wanted to chicken out and offer a draw, that might have been enough to do it because Pakitsa was not able to make any headway against Goldziani. It never really had an advantage in that case. But unfortunately, for the Cinderella story, she went this night, and that allows for sure restores king a. Now knight takes c3, the rook takes. Okay, white lives. So she played bishop c6, and she also has a very substantial advantage on the clock. This is where things start to go wrong. I mean, black has a nice choice of moves. Um, First of all, I don't, she can't go too wrong with taking the knight. If white takes with the queen, okay, you could trade queens. It's a pretty safe position for black. Maybe Annie was thinking that Paquita would probably roll Golotiani. Golotiani was having a poor tournament. But okay, like I said, she's another player who's not a full-time player or maybe even a part-time player, but she could play. She's skilled, and she played a good game. And if Annie knew that that game would be a draw, maybe she would have played differently here. Um, but what she does just doesn't get anywhere. She was, I don't know, maybe trying to find the perfect continuation. But okay, she could do that. She could certainly play a5. A5 would make sense. Just to keep things rolling. It would defend the knight if it came to b4, which is an important tactic. Also a4, a3. I mean, just looks very nice for black. All right, the computer says queen h2 is a good move. Okay, I don't think you should play moves like that. Just keep playing naturally. But a5 is. She plays knight d4, which seems a step in the wrong direction. And even here, she could play rook d8. Now, at her level of experience, maybe this is a move that doesn't fit to her because this the white grabbing the rook to the queen is not necessarily great in this middle game position. The queen can be great in the middle game, especially nice and centralized. White rooks are not going to coordinate all that easily. So that was possible. But she did the worst possible thing, really. She played knight ed5. And this is like as bad a move you can play without blundering something. Because it goes from a position that's probably a little bit better for black to a much better position for white. Because f takes the knight on d4 is undefended, so it has to come back. And now suddenly g5 white is attacking for free. White is attacking for free now. The white king is safe tucked in the corner, and no pieces are anywhere near it. So suddenly white's strategy has succeeded out of nowhere. And now, okay, now the pressure is really on Annie. And this is the most difficult thing in chess, really, to find ways to survive when you're under pressure. And there are a lot of things you could have tried. You tried h5, ditching that pawn, try to keep things close, attack. I I might have thought of king f8 to run to the center, or even king h8. Well, that scares me a little bit because if white does get to h6, that's good mate. So I might run the other way just to give myself a little more cushion. But she just fails from this position. She takes, allows white to double, and 97. She played fairly quickly, but it's just a really misassessment of things. Perhaps a lack of experience, not realizing how strong the queen can be against the two rooks in this type of position with an open king. And f6 probably makes it even worse. Again, played fairly quickly. I guess maybe her strategy was she was determined to avoid time pressure. Maybe she was just very nervous. But things just get worse after queen d6. And now almost anything's crushing for Sabina. She does not falter. She just has to make sure she doesn't get mated. And so she makes the moves. That's really the last hope for white, for black now. 96, 97, they're all threatened. She gives up the exchange because nothing else to do. But and white can do pretty much anything. She drives the bishop away, and now she's hitting the bishop, threatening mate. That's going to win the knight. So nothing to play for after this. So um, tough loss for Annie Wang, but she had an excellent position, which she could have pressed for a win, or she could have uh, maybe simplified the position for a draw, but she got the worst of both worlds and ended up with, with the losing position. So then she went into the playoff against Bagica, and let's see how that went today. Okay, so this is not the first game. I want to see the first game where Annie Wang was white. Get it in order. So we're gonna look at now. I did my regular weekly show. I taped it earlier today, and I said that Annie had a great tournament. She had some good fortune, and also she was able to play solidly, and that solid play was generally enough for her. But I was saying that I didn't really sense that she played with a lot of punch. Well, it was as if she heard me because in this game, played more aggressively. I think Paquiza decided to provoke her. Very sharp line. Uh, Usually black castles and saves it for later, but Paquiza attempts and into complications, and she goes grabbing, and Paquiza is not able to screen. And this ends up being very good for white. I haven't analyzed the minute details, but she closes the center, and okay, black is up against it because she has to make something happen before white consolidates. And she got to take this pawn, and there were no repercussions. So basically, Annie came out of this with a winning position, gives back one pawn, puts her king safely. Well, that's a good pawn to take. Gets Paquita to prevent rook d6. Now the black position is extremely compromised. Now Paquita manages to hang on for dear life for a long time, and is not able to put her away, but still doesn't give anything away, maintains an edge on the clock. Repeating the position, it doesn't matter. And eventually she finds this idea of bringing the bishop around, and that's the straw that breaks the camel's back. Rook c1 saving the rook, and then the rook on e7 can drop. Actually, white may even have forced mate here. So the playoffs went tremendously well for Annie Wang, as she showed. She proved to Joel Benjamin that she could play aggressive chess and go out and throw some punches. And that's really a key element to being a complete player and dangerous player. So that is an element of her game, and she certainly wants to develop. Problem was that next at black, she never got to play white again, and that's where it came crashing down for her, as we see the next game. All right, now one of the problems that young players have is they lack experience. Now that's obvious, but now uh, with the tools available, with the engines, with the internet, with the database, all the stuff, it's easy. It's easy to make up lost time. Experience counts for less. But one thing experienced have is they generally have a wider repertoire because they've just been playing long, so they've developed more ideas. And that was a problem for Annie is that Plan A failed. arguably plan A was not the right choice uh, for this situation because this particular line in the King's Indian attack she gets to. And okay, here this she can play something like six. This is, I think, a more solid line. And when White plays before it's afraid, right? But she doesn't know that. I'm sure she's never played it. So she plays to this line. One of two things can happen. Black can cast kingside, and White can play five and load up for a kingside attack. And there's going to be no easy draw. It's going to be a fight. And the other way, which is, I guess, in Annie's repertoire, is to look for the queenside castling. But that's just not a good idea in this situation. Arguably, she could have tried G5 maybe earlier, um, maybe defense, but she hadn't. And I'm not sure this is a good position for Black to begin with, but this is the opening that you play when you need to win with Black, not when you need to draw, because it's just too sharp. It's just the wrong thing for the situation. Maybe even objectively not that good. I leave that for others to say, but definitely wrong for the situation. I think A3 has to be answered by A5. I think you have to do that. Now G5, G4, this is a little bit unusual. More often, White blockades with the knight on G4. This allows the knight to go to G3, and then Black can only open the position with the F pawn, but there's a lot of problems with that, as that creates opportunities. And so B4, basically, White got this in for free. I don't think that can be allowed. Now, I think the engine says at this point that Black is not doing not doing too badly, but I think it's kind of a tough position. And as I said, it's absolutely wrong for the situation. Now, somehow that knight didn't get to E4, which I thought that it might. But White is able to build a momentum, create threats on the queen side, and eventually breaks things down over there. Black is just forced to just defend, and eventually this rook takes six. She allows this tactic, and White wins. So, but it was just a mistaken strategy, and it cost her, and that led to the Armageddon game. So the Armageddon game, I don't like Armageddon games. It seems that a lot of fans complain about them, that they're barbaric. It's a horrible way to go. Um, to lose a tournament because you make a draw, or because you have to go crazy to not make a draw. So the way it works is I guess um, Black gets draw odds, and White gets time odds. Who does it favor? Well, it depends. There are different levels of Armageddon where they can configure the clocks differently. I don't know how exactly they did it here, but you know, at the 2800 level, when it's very hard to win a game, it's probably advantage to have Black. I think that Andy Wang actually won the coin toss, got to make the call. Should have taken White. It's generally thought, well, you take Black and you try to draw. But you're a young player. You've just been spanked with Black. You should take White and go for the win. Go for it. Especially if you had White, you crush your opponent in the last game. Go for the win. It's easier to go for the win, psychologically easier, nothing holding you back, than to play for a draw. How do you do that? How aggressively do you play? How carefully? Um, the draw odds really did didn't do any good because she just played the same opening again, and there's the experience. I think she just didn't have a plan B. But there's a million things you can do. I mean, if you're gonna, why not D5 on the first move or something like this? You can play a system like this, which most people have in their repertoire. If you want to make a draw, this is a really good way to play. But she just played the same thing again, and the results were even worse this game. See, what did she do differently? Again, she went for the queenside castling, but she's trying to make a draw. Knight comes to G4. I mean, this position, objectively, this position is a mess for black. It's just not good. So she played something that was bad, but again, just completely the wrong thing to do. And black is really basically lost almost out of the opening. Knight coming to G6, nothing to do about it. Okay, here I think Paquita missed Queen E5 check, picking up the knight. But after Queen takes G4, I don't think black can save the knight anyway, because it's this check. Now Paquita played very carefully, sensing that she just had to not blunder, and she took a lot of time on some of these moves. Having played Rook E7, I thought maybe she'd play Rook C7, which looked to me like it was just instant end game because the queens chased off the diagonal Queen F3 and mate. She missed that, I guess, but okay, basically anything works. She did this, and I thought maybe she played G7, which looks like it's going to be first mate, but she played this. It's also good enough. Queen F3, and I think Annie resigned after that move. White could play Queen H1. White could play certainly take this knight because black can't get a mate. He can check and take the bishop, but then white can threaten mate on the seventh rank. That's that. So Annie, to the lack of experience, really caught up with her in those last two playoff games, and maybe in the last round of the tournament. So, what's the deal with Annie? I said in my weekly show, I saw kind of the birth of Irina Krush in the World Championship at 14. I think she destroyed the field. I don't think she's the level of player that Irina was, but she did amazing in this tournament, and she came into this tournament with a super dominating performance in the Girls Under 16 Championship, where she was not the highest rated player, but she just destroyed the field, won it very, very easily. But I haven't seen her do that much against a field with male players in it yet. So I don't know. We'll see. She's still just getting started, and all we could do is see how it goes. But she obviously can do a lot of things well. I think there's a lot of things that also she needs to develop in her game. But a tremendous result, and for Paquita, again, it's the second time that she has snatched victory in the U.S. Championship from the jaws of defeat. She won it last time, going to last one half a point behind Tatev Abrahami, actually winning outright when Tatev lost the last one. She won. So good on her. Nazi, this is a good representative of American chess. Happy for her, sad for Annie Wang. I don't really know Annie Wang, but you gotta feel something for what she pulled off in this tournament. Really pretty impressive. One thing that we've shown is that there has been a change in the last few years. Irina Krush is, it's tough to be the top player year after year after year, and she doesn't seem to have the same kind of motivation that she had before. Years ago, she was the best player, playing against players she was better than, but they were older than her. Now she's playing against players much better than, but they're younger than. And youth means a lot in chess. It's not always the youngest player, but the oldest players definitely can have a time. So that was the story in the women's tournament, and of course the men's tournament. Sam Shanklin, fantastic result. And one thought I have is going forward is the Olympic team. I mean, I don't know if pick players yet or what, but I mean Shanklin has to be on it. I mean that's for sure. He has to be plugged in there with the big three. And who should be the fifth player? That's a tough question. It was Ray Robson last time. Some said, well, maybe Onashuk was still up there, but after this result, it's going to be hard for him. Akobian got up to a great start, but faltered badly in the second half, so it's not going to be one of the older guys. What about Jeffrey Zhang? 2 years ago, everybody was raving, well, this American team is going to get even stronger. We put Jeffrey Zhang on. Well, he was coming off winning the World Junior, and he's done okay after that, but not amazing. Not amazing. Maybe he gets a shot. I don't know. I don't really know what it should be. U.S. team going to be strong no matter what. Certainly, if you got the big three going. I don't know. I don't know if they're all totally committed to it, but that's a strong team. It's just interesting to speculate about. All right. Well, I apologize slightly in that I have to do a few more things and get the hang of the YouTubing aspect of it, because I was going to try to be like Yerma and answer questions, but I couldn't quite figure out how to do that. And but anyway, I did my best to anticipate a few questions that people might ask about the players in the championship. And I hope that everybody enjoyed our live recap. It was a fun U.S. championship. I enjoyed following it. It certainly was a pretty exciting finish in both tournaments with both tournaments ending with decisive results at the top. All right, well, that about does it. This has been ICC TV. Thanks for joining us. I'm Joel Benjamin, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Good night.